Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Members, I will call on members based on seniority of those present when the hearing was called to order, obviously going between side to side. Each member will have 5 minutes for questions and the responses, and I anticipate that we'll have enough potentially time for maybe 2 rounds. We do have a hard stop at 4 o'clock. I will start, Mr. Secretary. You know more than most the plight of the oppressed and the fragility of freedom. And I think democracy programs, when potentially done right, without an extreme policy agenda, woke agenda, agenda du jour, can be a valuable national security tool to advance our safety, our security, and frankly, our values abroad. And so now, while the skinny budget, and we understand why, doesn't address democracy programs, but a lot of these awards were terminated during the assistance review. Now, I will tell you, Mr. Secretary, I had sadly, a front row seat to the Biden administration's effort to co-opt important bipartisan programs to advance their woke agenda while damaging our national security. And by the way, democracy programs were a big part of that. So I get it. But you know, we need to get back into basics and get back into the game in the right way. So what can you tell me about your plans and then the president's plans and policies to support freedom around the globe, and what are your plans as far as potentially for democracy? Is that a priority? Democracy programs. So give me your read on that.
Well, a couple things. First of all, I think in the context of our broader foreign policy, we need to recognize that there are countries, for example, whose governance systems are not the ones we would want for our own country, but nonetheless, we need to have a relationship with them because it's in our geopolitical interests. 2 countries I recently visited, Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Saudi Arabia is not a democratic society, but yet they're an important strategic partner for us in the Middle East for a variety of reasons. On the other hand, you see where there are opportunities, and you would hope to be able to support a vibrant democracy development in places in our hemisphere, as an example. And I think what that draws to bear is that what democracy promotion or programs like this mean will vary from region to region and country to country. I think we all wish we lived in a Pollyanna world where everything was equal across the board, but the fact of the matter is that foreign policies never looked like that. We have always had to treat different countries in different ways, sometimes because our geopolitical interests require it. That said, I think it's also important in these programs, just because a program, and I'm not criticizing any program in particular, but just because a program has a nice and impressive title, democracy promotion, well, I think we would all be supportive of democracy promotion. But at some point, these programs have to prove that they are actually promoting democracy, that they are actually delivering on an outcome. And so, again, I'm not speaking about any program in particular, but when you've been promoting democracy in some society for 20 years and have made no advances, you have to ask yourself, at least at a minimum, you have to ask yourself, are we spending the money on the right thing? Is it with the right people and in the right way? And so I do think that these things are worthy of review, but ultimately, if we see opportunities that fit our national interest to promote democracy, to promote pluralism in a society, I keep going back to this because it's very recent, but you would hope one day, for example, that we would be able to promote, if possible, and whatever efforts we can do, a society in Syria, which right now is under a transitional authority run by some people that I know have some difficult pasts, but nonetheless have expressed a desire at a national project, meaning they want to build a country. They're not interested in fighting a war with Israel. They're not interested in exporting revolution or becoming a playground for jihadists. And in order to have a real functioning society in Syria, you're going to have a government that's inclusive of Alawis and Druze and Sunni, some elements of Shia and Kurds and Christians. And if we can help somehow in bringing that together, we'd be open to doing it, but it's got to be a program that actually has a chance to succeed, not just some NGO with a nice title and they pitch us a contract.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Very little time, and I'm going to keep myself to the clock as well, Mr. Secretary. I may cut you off at the end of your answer so very briefly. Look, one of the flaws, I think, during President Obama's Iran JCPOA was that it did not cover Iran's ballistic missiles, their support for for terrorists and proxies. Can you give us an idea? And again, I don't have a lot of time, and I'm going to cut you off, so just know that. A little bit about those talks with Iran.
Well, again, I can't say as much because, when you're in the middle of a negotiation, you don't want to imperil it. Suffice it to say that the president and his entire team has been very clear. Iran cannot have an enrichment capability because that ultimately makes them a threshold of nuclear power. And there are sanctions related to terrorism, sanctions related to their ballistic missiles program and the like. Those sanctions, if they're not part of the deal, they'll remain in place if those things are not addressed. But the enrichment piece is the key piece. And we continue to say that Iran cannot have an enrichment capability.
Thank you. And members, you see that the chairman stuck to the clock. I am going to demand that everybody else does the same thing.